quick recording where we do a little review of last week. And I'm going to move this over here because that page already has the answers. I'm going to move this up here. Well, maybe I'm not. There we go. And I'm going to do this problem that you have on page 2 in your note capture. Okay? So when I look at this first problem 4, let's see, Zuber, how many times does 5 go into 182? I mean, how about into 18?
Goes into 3 times.
3 times. So, does everybody find that page too? So I can focus on just one of the pages so we can see better. So it goes in 3 times, so we're going to put the 3 right here. And then we say 3 times 5, because we multiply, is 15. And we subtract. 8 take away 5 is 3. And we bring down the 2. Thumbs up or thumbs down on that? Okay. That's how you say it. So then I ask myself, does 5 go into 32?
Yes.
And if I say yes, I'm going to ask how many times. And you're right, it goes 6 times. So 5 times 6 is 30. So then I subtract, and I get a 2.
Then you add the decimal point, add a 0, bring the 0 down.
You could add the decimal point, add a 0, bring the 0 down, but if you recognize your benchmark fractions, sometimes you don't have to. So do you remember the other day when we looked at this benchmark chart, we learned fifths? And fifths are 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8. So 2 fifths is 4 tenths. So if you know that by memory, then you don't have to do the decimal thing. Because if I look at this and answer the questions, the quotient is 36, the remainder is 2. So my answer in fraction form, do you know what that is, Jack? 36 and 2 fifths, right. And if you know the decimal value of 2 fifths, you could just write it down and it's 0.4. So there's an advantage to knowing them by memory. So Will, you were gonna move up, weren't you? Did you want me to move you up? Do you want to come sit up here for this part? Yeah, you can. You can sit there and bring the chair over. So sometimes we have a fraction where we know the decimal, but not always. Okay, so now when we go to that warm-up, here, I think right here, we don't really have those nice little numbers here, do we? That's not as nice. So we can't use that little shortcut. So we have to do the decimal work. That's what this is about. And so when you learned in elementary school, whenever there was a decimal out here, you had to move it. Here you probably learned that you had to move it 1 time. And whatever you did out there, you had to do the same thing here, and so the decimal came up there. Can I get a thumbs up, thumbs down if that's familiar? Maybe you don't remember it perfectly, but you at least remember hearing about it?
Oh, I know how to do this.
Okay. So what about in the back, Nicole? Do you remember doing that? Okay, and Jada? A little bit? Okay, so you're going to have to practice with us. So before we got to that, one way to think of it is that this is 51.66. Make that a little skinnier. And I'm going to divide by 4.2. All of this is saying is the way we move the decimal is by multiplying by 10 or 100. If I multiply by 10, the decimal moves 1 time. So if I multiply 4.2 by 10, I end up getting 42. Just think about that. What's 4 times 10? 4 times 10. 40, right? So 4.2 times 10 is going to be a little bit more. It's going to be 42. Did you guys learn multiplying by 10 last year with decimals?
Yeah.
Yeah? So then if I multiply this by 10, it's going to go to 516.6. And so basically we're just trying to get this problem to look like that problem, where the decimals move. That's all.
Wait,
Zero.
you have to put this little box where you were changing
You
it.
don't.
Okay.
It's just if you kind of need something to think about it. So like if you've already done this before, what I'm guessing you're going to do is it's going to look like this sometimes. You're going to probably start like this because you've already mastered this skill in elementary school. And you might do something like this. Is that how you did it?
Yeah.
And it's just because you multiplied both of them by 10. And as long as you do the same thing to both, it doesn't change the answer. And then I'm going to say 34 goes into 289 a certain amount of time. Can anybody figure out how many times? How about you, Charlotte? 8. You're right. It goes in 8 times. So if I do some scratch work off to the side here, I get 32. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27, so I'm going to subtract, and when I do that, I get a 7 and a 1, so I have to bring down the 0. Did you keep going on that, Charlotte? So what's your next thing? Like, do you know what number goes here? Who can help her out? Who's Olivia? Octavia?
Well, 34 goes into 175 times.
34 goes into 175 times. And just to check it, we could do scratch work. 34 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17, so we get 170. And I get a 0 remainder, which means I'm done. So my answer is 8.5. Now, how many people need practice with this skill? This is something we want to practice, but we need to master. So, what you can do is, that's all we're going to do today, but you could come into help sessions, and we'll practice this a little bit each day. You just have to keep practicing, and you'll get really good at it. But you do have to practice.